Hi guys, this is Andy from Loves to Travel, and we know how excited you guys have been to see this kitchen. We finally get to cook in it. We've been really busy moving in. Today we're going to show you two different ways how to turn this Marachun packet of ramen into one, an affordable fast meal, and two, a more healthy version that's a little bit more effort to make, but it'll be worth it, trust me. Now Marachun's actually, ramen in specific, has been very hard to find recently due to international issues with shipping and whatnot. But if you can get your hands on it, this is going to be a very easy way to have a nice quick meal. Okay, so first things first, we're going to be needing the ramen itself. We're going to be using the entire packet of this. We're also going to need a couple things to spice it up, including soy sauce. We love Kikomen soy sauce. It's our favorite brand. We use this Chinese bowl barbecue sauce. We'll have links for it in the description below. We usually get ours on Amazon. And we're also going to be using eggs. Very simple, nice and easy. So first things first, we're going to need some water. And we're going to turn on our induction burner. You might have seen it in one of my previous videos. For this, we're going to be using about 2 cups of water. Now, we're going to add the packet from this, not the ramen itself. So open it up real quick. And this chicken flavor packet, we're going to dump that right in. Next up, we're going to add a bit of soy sauce. I don't know the exact measurement, I kind of just eyeball it. And now we're going to add our barbecue sauce. And for this, I like to use just around this amount, like half a spoonful, just enough to give it a little bit of flavor. And now we just wait for that to heat up. So this specific recipe is a recipe my mother actually made for us when we were kids growing up. She got it from her mother as well. It's kind of like a pass down the family generations, even if it's something kind of simple. So in part, it's kind of like a comfort food for my family to have this very simple yet kind of embellished bowl of ramen that's not that hard to make. So now that that's heated up a little bit, we're going to add our brick of ramen. Add that in, make sure every bit is in there, and make sure it's a little bit mixed in. We'll wait for that to heat up just a little bit more. So we're cooking this on about medium heat. We don't want it to cook too fast. We want the noodles to have a chance to get a little bit of flavor soaked in, while also not overcooking it immediately. Obviously, it's still a cheap thing of ramen, so it's not too important, but you gotta do what you can, you know? So at this point, we're gonna be adding our egg. Just break it right in there. The first thing I'm gonna do is break that egg up and just mix it in. We're not gonna do anything fancy with the egg. We just want that little bit of extra protein and flavor that comes from it. Ideally, you can get these little ribbons out of it. They'll just go around the ramen. Now this meal is really great because you don't really need much to make it. Especially as a college student, you can get a hot pot, just cook it in there using all these ingredients very easily in your college dorm room. I remember when I was going to school in a dorm room, I did the exact same thing. So you know when it's done, when it's changing color a little bit. You start to see the noodles become a little translucent. You'll be able to see through them a little bit, but not completely, right? When it starts getting to that stage is when we're going to turn this off and the ramen should be done. So now let's dish it out. Yep. And we're just going to pour it all right in there. Our lovely, simple, homemade ramen. So now let's try this ramen, see if it really tastes like my childhood. Those noodles look perfectly cooked to me. Perfectly done with the ingredients we have on hand. Nice and simple meal. Perfect for college students, perfect for just a quick snack if you really want it. Very fast to make. So now we're gonna try the other ramen recipe I was talking about. Now this is gonna be a little more effort, but one, it's healthier, and two, it's gonna taste better. So let's get to it. So for this alternative version, this thing, we don't need it. We're not using this. This is very unhealthy, high in salt, high in sodium. It's nice and easy for the flavor, but we can make our own flavors a different way. So for this, we're gonna be using actual chicken broth for the broth. We're still gonna be using the soy sauce and the barbecue sauce from the first one. And I'm also going to be adding garlic salt and black pepper. And the best part about this is you can control the levels of how much salt you want. So first things first, we're gonna add our chicken broth. Once again, about 2 cups. We're gonna turn this on while we're at it. About 2 cups, that should be enough. Add our soy sauce, a similar amount to last time. Similar amount of barbecue sauce. Just a little bit of garlic salt, not too much. You don't want too much, just a little bit, add the flavor. And then a few grinds of black pepper. So now we can mix this all up in there. And then while that simmers, we can start on the ramen. We're gonna be using a separate pot for this. So I'm gonna take this off to the side. Okay, so once again, we need 2 cups of water-ish. And we just need to get this as hot as possible, as soon as possible. So we're gonna turn this on and we're gonna boil it. Once it's boiled, then we can add our noodles and cook them through. So an induction burner specifically requires a specific bottom, and it has to be steel. I can't have plastic or else it'll burn onto the induction burner, and the induction burner will generally recognize when that's happening. So you need to use a different pot in that situation. All right, now that the water is hot, we'll add in our noodles. Stir it in just a bit. And we wait for it to cook.
So why don't you cook it in there? That's the question, versus just this. Why don't you cook it straight in there versus...
So the reason that we're cooking the noodles separately from the broth this time is because if you cook it in the broth, it's going to naturally absorb the flavors of the broth. You want them separate because it also gives it a different texture. You'll notice when you drink the broth separately from the noodles don't taste quite the same as the broth, which is intentional if you cook them separately. If you cook them together, they kind of blend together. And in general, ramen's supposed to be like a mishmash of flavors, not all one flavor. Obviously, we're doing a super simplified version of it. This isn't going to be actual like professional grade ramen, but we can do what we can with the tools we have. And you can try it for yourself if you want. See what I mean? And once again, we know when it's done, when you can start seeing through the noodles, when it becomes slightly translucent. It's almost there. Right, you can start to see some of the noodles become translucent. This is about the time we're going to turn off the heat. And we're actually going to drain the water out of these noodles real quick. Now that the water's out of the noodles, you can see there's a nice little shine to them. And we're going to put these straight into the bowl. And they're going to chill off for the side for a minute. Now back to the broth that's been hanging out on the side. We've been slowly heating it up. We're now going to add our egg to the broth. Now we're going to do something slightly different with the egg this time, where instead of mixing it in, we're just going to let it sit. And while this isn't going to exactly be a soft-boiled egg, it's going to be more like a poached egg that we're going to put straight into our ramen. Now essentially we're just going to wait till the top of the egg is mostly or completely white, is no longer see-through from the egg white. But we don't want that yolk to be cooked through. We want it to still be nice and runny. It should only take a minute or two. All right, and once the egg is cooked through, we can turn off the induction burner. Grab our bowl of ramen. And we're going to pour that straight on top. So now this bowl of ramen is done. So on the right, we have our very cheap, low effort version of ramen. And on the left, we have the slightly more effort, but still not very much effort, bowl of ramen. And these two are both very good in their own respects. This isn't any fancy ramen, it's just your cheap packet of ramen. The best part about this one is that when you break the egg, the yolk comes running out into the broth and adds to the flavor of the broth itself. So now let's try the second bowl of ramen. Mm. The flavor is much more natural. The egg having the runny yolk really adds to the texture as well. Noodles have a different texture because they were cooked separately. And so I would say, obviously, the second bowl of ramen is better. A little more effort to make. The first bowl of ramen is still very good if you are feeling extra lazy, just want some comfort food, right? We appreciate you watching, checking out the video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe down below. I'll see you next time.